obstacles and opposition.
Right.
Obstacles and opposition. Turn with me to the book of Nehemiah. Nehemiah chapter 4, verses 9 to 12. You have it, say amen.
Amen.
Since there's only 4 verses, I'm going to ask you to stand and let us reverence the Word of God. I will read in unison. I'm reading the King James Version, whatever version you have to read out of that. Chapter 4, verses 9 to 12. Chapter 4, verses 9 to 12. Let us begin now. Nevertheless, we made our prayer unto our God, and set a watch against them day and night because of them. And Judah said, the strength of various burdens is decayed, and there is much rubbish, so that we are not able to build the wall. And our adversaries said, they shall not know, neither see, till we come in the midst among them, and slay them, and cause the work to cease. And it came to pass that when the Jews which dealt by them came, they said unto us, 10,000 they will be upon you. Yes, it came to pass that when the Jews which dwelt by them came, they said unto us 10 times, from all places whence ye shall return unto us, they will be upon you. May the Lord add a blessing to the reading of his word and sanctify it in our hearts. You may be seated in God's house. Another version says, but we prayed to our God and posted a guard day and night to meet this threat. To meet this threat. Meanwhile, the people in Judah said, the strength of the laborers is giving out. And there's so much rubble that we cannot rebuild the wall. Also, our enemies said, before they know it or see us, we will be right there among them and will kill them and put an end to the work. Oh, yes. So when you have a project to do or a mission to accomplish, how do you view obstacles and opposition? Do you see insurmountable barriers forcing you to quit? Or do you see hurdles challenging you to jump and keep going? In this project to rebuild the wall around the city of Jerusalem, Nehemiah was faced with a number of obstacles and significant enemy opposition. If we had been in Nehemiah's sandals, many of us would have thrown in the towel because of the obstacles and opposition. Some of us would even have concluded that God had closed the door because the obstacles and opposition seemed so great. But Nehemiah did not quit. He saw the obstacles and opposition as hurdles to be overcome in order to complete God's work. Every type of obstacles and every form of opposition that Nehemiah faced in rebuilding the wall of Jerusalem is an illustration from God's word of obstacles and opposition that we can expect to face as Christians. Oddly enough, this message is coming when we are in the middle of a project. We are encountering building God's home, God's place, God's sanctuary. When we become involved in serving the Lord and building the walls of personal or corporate Christian testimony, we will definitely face obstacles and opposition.
Yes.
The steps that Nehemiah took in overcoming the roadblocks that he faced are recorded in the Holy Spirit, recorded by the Holy Spirit, so that we can learn and follow God's methods for defeating the enemy. Nehemiah was a godly Jew who lived during the 5th century BC in Susa, the capital of the Persian Empire. He was the cupbearer to the Persian king, Artaxerxes.
Yes.
Artaxerxes I, or the first. In the ancient world, this was very important and prestigious position because the one who was responsible for the king's drink was considered to be most loyal and trustworthy by the king himself. I mean, after all, one of the easiest ways for an assassin to remove a monarch was through poisoning his drink. And thus, Nehemiah, probably one of Artaxerxes' most trusted personal advisors. And although Nehemiah had it made with such a respected and well-paying job, he was concerned about the problems and the struggles of his own people who were living back at the homeland of the Jewish people. Nehemiah's concerns centered on the city of Jerusalem, whose walls were in ruins. Walls had been destroyed by Babylonians almost a century and a half before, when Nebuchadnezzar conquered Jerusalem and took the Jews into captivity. The Jewish people who had returned to Jerusalem from Babylon following the 70-year exile had completed the rebuilding of their temple, but the walls of the holy city remained as piles and rubble. Piles and rubble. Even though Nehemiah was physically far removed from the problem, he was determined to do something about the pathetic situation of Jerusalem. Realizing that the troubles of the Jewish people stemmed largely from the fact that their capital city was weak and defenseless, he decided before the Lord to return to Jerusalem himself, and with God's help, direct Operation Wall. Notice that as far as the inspired record goes, Nehemiah did not receive any specific personal revelation or communication from God to rebuild the wall of Jerusalem. However, Nehemiah was right on in his plans because he knew that God did not want his people to be weak and defenseless. He also knew from the prophecy of Daniel, written about 100 years before Nehemiah's time, that Jerusalem was about to be rebuilt as a strong city people return from captivity in spite of the obstacles and the opposition. Daniel 2 and 25. Book of Daniel, chapter 2, verse 25. And as God called Nehemiah to overcome certain obstacles and opposition to meet special need, he may call us to do the same.
Yes, sir.
So let us not expect some special vision or communication from God, as in the case of Nehemiah, when we are exercised in heart about a particular need or ministry or Christian service project which is in line with God's word. Let's step out in faith, take steps to overcome the obstacles and the opposition in order to meet the need or to start a new ministry or head up that Christian service project. God will confirm our step by faith, by giving us strength and success. So through prayer and godly dedication and determination, Nehemiah overcame the obstacles and associated with the obtaining the necessary permission and loyal visas. Perhaps he even had to overcome the opposition of family and friends in Persia. I mean, listen, Nehemiah, God has blessed you, placed you high in the ranks of Persian emperor's cabinet. And it is more important for you to keep your position right here in Susa. Those lazy Jews in Jerusalem should take care of their own broken down walls. So be prepared. These kinds of general obstacles and opposition are normal. They go with the territory of just about any job you decide to do for the Lord. With these obstacles behind him, Nehemiah faced a long trip to Jerusalem, about 1,000 miles on horseback. And even before he arrived in Jerusalem, we read that two enemies, Sanballat and Tobiah, were very angry that someone had come to help the Jews. Chapter 2, verse 9. And their displeasure was of the obstacles and the opposition to come. Sanballat and Tobiah were rulers in two of the Persian provinces surrounding the province of Judah. They did not want Jerusalem to become a strong, well-defended city. Oh no. The prosperity of their own province would be adversely affected if the trade routes and economic advantages shifted in Jerusalem's direction. So after Nehemiah had arrived in Jerusalem and successfully challenged the people to rise up and to build, no little obstacle in itself, Sanballat and Tobiah and other enemy ruler Geshem began their opposition by mocking and despising the would-be builders. And as the wall began to go up, the enemies became furious. Their scorn and ridicule intensified and even included the taunt of that if a fox should jump on it and would break their stone wall down. So when we become involved in serving the Lord and building the wall of Christian testimony in any way, we will probably face scorn and derision in some form or other. I'm telling you right now, when we become involved, we're going to face scorn and derision. And I don't know about you, but can you read between the lines? Have you ever been laughed at for using the Bible as an authoritative resource for daily living? Have you ever been ridiculed for trusting in God Have you ever been called the country bumpkin, or believing the creation expect to be mocked as Christians? Its part in the enemy's strategy. Unfortunately, many Christians can't handle much scorn or ridicule. They calculate the slightest opposition, even a little fox jumping on it, can break down their wall. How did Nehemiah deal with derision and contempt of the enemy? He prayed specifically about the problem, continued to build. Notice that the people did not stop building until they prayed. That one would have been playing right into the enemy's hands. Notice also that their positive attitude. The people had a mind to work. Did you hear what I said? Yes. The people had a mind to work. Do you have a mind to work? Yes, sir. Yes. Do you have a, turn to your neighbor, say to your neighbor, do you have a mind to work? Ask your other neighbor, do you have a mind to work? Do you have a mind to work? Now, just answer yourself. Just openly answer yourself. Do you or don't you? I don't know about you, but I have a mind to work. I do. I have a mind to work. In spite of the opposition. In spite of the opposition, I have a mind to work. In spite of being scorned, I have a mind to work. In spite of the enemy coming in and trying to chop up and break up things, I have a mind to work. In spite of, I got a mind to work. And therefore, God's going to bring me out. God's going to bring me out. And I'm going to come out on top. Oh, no. I'm not going to be on the bottom. I'm going to be on top. And I'm going to get the job done. The enemy's going to sit back with their mouth dropped open, wondering how in the world did you accomplish such a vast, great project with such little, it seems as though, resources today. But only you and I know that it's only because of the favor of God. It's only because of the favor of God that we complete the project and that we go forth, amen, doing the will of the Lord. How did Nehemiah deal with derision and contempt of the enemy? He prayed specifically about the problem. Right. He continued to build. He continued to build. Notice that the people did not stop building while they prayed. That would have been playing right into the enemy's hands. Notice how their positive attitude. The people had a mind to work, the determination to arise and build, which was exhibited when the ridicule began. Continued to characterize the people. No wonder the wall was completed in half its height, in spite of the opposition. When we as Christians are confronted with mockery, let's maintain our determination to continue to build strong spiritual walls while we pray. I said, when they begin to mock you, continue to pray. Let us continue to build a wall with spiritual prayer. Amen. And build spiritual walls while we pray. Oh yes, when we mocked by the enemy. Hallelujah. But I don't care how much mockery the enemy will bring against the house. They cannot destroy this house because this house belongs to God. This house belongs to the Lord. Oh yes. And this is God's church. And this church belongs to God. And this church belongs to the Lord. And no weapon that is formed against us shall prosper. Did you hear what I said? I said, no weapon that's formed against us shall prosper. Oh, I know what I'm talking about here today. Widespread discouragements was another obstacle which Nehemiah faced. Although the wall was half completed, there was still a lot of work to do. And fatigue and exhaustion were beginning to take their toll. Furthermore, word was beginning to circulate that the enemy was planning to mount a major attack against Jerusalem before the wall could be completed. This threat further demoralized and discouraged the people as rumors and propaganda spread. Halfway points are always critical. On one hand, you can feel very discouraged or feel very encouraged when a project is half completed. But on the other hand, you can become very discouraged because you are only half done. Add threat of attack to halfway point discouragement, and you're bound to get a lot of burnout victims and quitters starting to walk off the job. Oh yes, quitters that start to walk off the job. Nehemiah knew that the halfway points are critical when he saw discouragement and doubt and fear gaining ground among the people, that he took action. First and foremost, of course, he made sure that the people continued to pray. Then, in addition to posting an armed guard, he rallied the people with the exhortation to remember their great and awesome Lord. And he encouraged them not to be afraid and challenged them to be willing to fight for their families. Exhortation and encouragement and challenge in context of prayer is the only sure cure. The only sure cure for discouragement and doubt. Are you in a discouraging situation in your church fellowship? Oh, I tell you, or is a ministry right now? Are doubts beginning to voice themselves? Is there so much rubble from the broken walls of the past that your situation seems impossible? Are some of your fellow believers jumping ship because of fear from the enemy's threats? Pray specifically about the situation. Do what you can to encourage and challenge your colleagues. Exhort them to remember the Lord. Yes. To remember the Lord. Yes. Remember the Lord and the great and awesome things he has done in the past. Yes. Don't join the pity party or the obstacles and the opposition of a halfway point may never be left behind. The enemy conspiracy that Nehemiah faced certainly pictures Satan's intensified opposition to stop our spiritual wall building. Nehemiah 4:15-23 makes it clear that no matter how great the threat of enemy attack, we should never stop building. Nehemiah took great pains to organize round the clock armed defenses of Jerusalem, but never stopped building the wall. Building and battling go together in spiritual warfare. The importance of staying armed is brought out in these verses as well. Even though God had frustrated the enemy's plan of attack, the people kept their weapons and armor ready. it's hard to miss the obvious spiritual lesson of the importance of spiritual armor. Ephesians 6, verses 10 to 18 commands that we put on the full armor of God.
Yes, sir.
And take up the sword of the Spirit.
Yes.
And be ready to face and overcome the obstacles and the opposition of the enemy.
Hallelujah.
In chapter 5, we see another obstacle and a form of opposition that Nehemiah faced. Some of the more well-to-do people were selfishly refusing to help the poor. Many of the poor people had to mortgage their properties and to make ends meet and to borrow money to pay their Persian taxes. Times were especially tough because of a famine and the fact that everyone was expected to be involved in Operation Wall. For some of the situation was so pressing that they were forced to sell themselves and their children as slaves, similar to the idea of indentured servants. Instead of trying to help to relieve these poor folks, the rich and the well-to-do were actually taking advantage of the situation. Oh yes, they were holding the land of their fellow Jews, and contrary to Jewish law, they were charging them high interest rates. Their consciences had to become desensitized to the miserable plight of their own brothers.
Yeah.
Oh yes. So in Nehemiah 6, the enemy tries 3 forms of personal attack. Personal attack usually is the toughest and the most subtle form of opposition. We see the temptation of compromise. The leaders surrounding the enemy proposed a peace conference in the plain of Ono and invited Nehemiah. Certainly, talk is better than war, but the plain of Ono was a day's journey from the wall and sandwiched the narrow strip of land between the enemy provinces of Samaria and Ashdod. The enemy was hoping to get Nehemiah away from his God-given ministry of wall building to do him harm. And Nehemiah suspected foul play and says, oh no, I will not meet with the enemy on the plain of Ono. So on the plain of Ono, he says, oh no. On the plain of Ono, he says, oh no. And on our plain of Ono, we ought to say, oh no. That's right. Say it with me. Plain of Ono.
Plain of Ono.
Oh no.
Oh no.
Clap your hands and praise God. So, to summarize everything, because Nehemiah continually looked to God and successfully overcame all obstacles and opposition he faced, the wall was completed in 52 days. That's less than 2 months, a tremendous accomplishment and a testimony to what God can do through a fully committed believer. So let's follow the model of Nehemiah with God's help, and with God's help, overcome the hurdles of the enemy obstacles and opposition as we faithfully build strong walls of Christian testimonies, and as we faithfully build God's house. People of God, I'm here to let you know that even as we declare that no weapon that is formed against us shall prosper, be encouraged today. Know that the Lord is on your side. Know that the favor of God is upon you. Oh, praise his mighty name. Know that God has a way out of nowhere. Oh, yes, he does. Amen. And no matter what the enemy does, the enemy cannot stop the work of the Lord. Cannot stymie the work of the Lord. When the enemy comes and tries to discourage you. Back during Nehemiah's time, they didn't have emails. So they didn't email Nehemiah. But nowadays the enemy can use email and text message and so forth and so on to discourage you from completing the work that God has called us. But people of God, be encouraged today. Be encouraged today. Are you encouraged? Be encouraged today. Amen. The Lord is giving us the victory. The Lord has given us the victory. I say that. The Lord has given us the victory.
Praise
worship him in spirit and in truth. Can you say yes? Say yes. Say yes. My God is a mighty God. Hallelujah. Your prayers are already answered. Praise reports have not peaked out yet. There's going to be many praise reports because God is doing it. Oh, praise the name of Jesus. And all we got to do is stay keep our hands in the hands of the Lord. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Oh, thank you, Lord. This is not a whipping message, but this was an encouraging message to encourage you to praise the Lord.